I do think that the dissolution of traditional societies is a question that we have to think about. Obviously, not all values from the past are things that we would want to redeem, but we do see the dissolution of qualitative relationships taking place because of the value signal and because of what I would think of as a sort of intensive colonization of not only what we think of as economy, but also representational systems, consciousness, affect, and all of the things that used to be thought of as human, even though that concept is highly problematic as well, based as it is on the exclusion of some. So I'm going to begin with a couple of definitions just to situate myself and you all in sort of the version of this thinking that I'm presenting, and we'll hopefully have a conversation around these. There's a lot of moving parts in our project, as you can see, and as I said, different lexicons, but it's the sort of tension and frisson among those different efforts, I think, which has really been incredibly productive. So I've been working on this paper called the Peer-to-Peer Value Creation Platform, based upon a lot of the conversations that we've been having, and I'm just going to read a few definitions. Peer-to-peer means here that the economic fabric is built out of dyadic peer-to-peer relations rooted in the social fabric. These social relations are represented on a computational fabric that is then grafted onto the social relations endemic in peer-to-peer. Dyadic relationships form a social and computational quilt of dense peer-to-peer relations, so the scaling effect of that. Value creation here means two contradictory things that will possibly be resolved in the long-term operation of a platform of this kind. One, the creation of exchange values, and two, the sustainable creation of values that are other than, different from, and indeed beyond the reach of exchange value. It's phantom objectivity, and its direct peg to abstract universal labor time. The evolutionary vector of the platform is from a platform for the exchanges of equivalence, what we live in now, actually, to a platform facilitating equitable and fair exchanges. That is, equitable and fair as locally defined among peers. The first, exchange value, is measured by the universal value form, resulting from and operative in the history of capitalism, while the second is a more robust and locally inflected notion of what is just and fair. Not a universal scale, but a scale agreed upon among pairs by communities. The achievement of the latter would be tantamount to a revaluation of value itself and would place participants in this economy in a post-capitalist economy of their own making. And then I have one quick comment on Bitcoin, also to situate my other remarks. What if the trustlessness of existing cryptocurrency, that's in quotation marks, was not just the achievement of blockchain, but also its limit? What if Satoshi Nakamoto's effective rewriting of the social contract by ostensibly eliminating the need to trust also resulted in a further one-dimensionalization of value by embedding the collapse of all worldly values into price? While the technical replacement of the social fabric by cryptographically secure distributed digital computing eliminates the need to trust banks and states, though not yet exchanges, this exclusion of the need for trusted third parties, famously called disintermediation, also reduces the peer-to-peer communication of values to qualitatively equivalent utterances, right? The only thing communicated in a Bitcoin transaction is a magnitude, an amount, the number of quantity of Bitcoins received. The social meaning of Bitcoin, one of the great sources of its value, I would say, its appreciation, does not enter the code. So in a way, X's great intervention, so far at least, is in the realm of the financial imagination. Since the defeat of 20th century socialist movements and the relative defeat of a lot of decolonization efforts and the advent of postmodernism, circa 68, 73, some people say, economic redesign has been effectively off the table, and the capitalist operating system has been accepted as something that was untranscendable. I mean, I remember Frederick Jameson saying that it's easier to imagine the end of the world than it is to imagine the end of capitalism. So if the transformation of the capitalist operating system was off the table, so too were some of the other claims of radical social movements, including things like seizing the means of production, the transvaluation of value, and certainly, although it didn't occur to many people to put it this way, the redesign of the protocols of money, how to do something else with a price signal. Some of you are probably familiar with the socialist calculation debate, which Hayek emerged victorious in. But one of the things that was clear from that is that price, like Shannon's mathematical theory of communication, in being content indifferent created a very efficient telecommunication system, which at the time could outpace, can you still hear me? Which at the time could outpace socialist bureaucracies trying to organize distribution, because language is just too slow and too inefficient, and there's too much information loss. But the collapse of the signal into price, which had certain affordances and which still reigns today in many people's mind, also created a tremendous loss. And in fact, if you look at revolutionary movements, Trotsky and certain Chinese political economists under Mao were thinking about how to instantiate new categories in economic accounting systems. That conversation didn't go as far as it might, but nobody wanted to give up completely on exchange value or the need for metrics. And so we're sort of in this space between a rejection of the capitalist metrics of profit and the exploitation, which is endemic in the extraction of profit, and the necessity to create a set of metrics which will scale so that we can have the complex, differentiated economies which we absolutely require on a planetary system. The effect of this, of Hayek winning the debate, though, was that it consigned politics to culture, which became actually a production machine for the fixed capital of mass media. I know that's saying a lot, but the book that I wrote called The Message is Murder basically argues that when you have representational systems functioning as effectively fixed capital, then you have interface being a form of deterritorialized factory work, where all of your subjectivity, all of your creative power is aggregated in a way that creates profits for someone else that's probably not you. I mean, you can wager within that space and the ways you might wager in a job, but the general trend of the economy is pyramidal, right? I mean, you have the value transfer up the value chain and an incredible concentration of accumulation at the top. 5 billionaires have more wealth than half the world right now, and incredible corresponding accumulation of dispossession at the bottom. 2 billion people are living on $2 a day. Time? Is time okay?
We still have some time, yeah.
Great, all right. Enter Bitcoin, this new money form. Very, very important, very interesting, because it's also a new medium. And that I think is something that people miss. It's a new medium in the sense that photography was a new medium in 1840, or that cinema was a new medium in 1900. It's very, very minimally capable right now. But the idea that you can have a communication substrate, which is also a financial tool, is something that's extremely powerful. And it's that space that we're working on thinking about. The problem with Bitcoin, one of the amazing things about it is that it was a platform-based, computational platform rather than nation platform-based. It's not platformed on a nation state, it's platformed on computation and distributed, so that changes the politics of what it means to valorize a particular economy. But again, I mean, the voicing is monological. Right? It's just the transaction record, the ledger, which is effectively a hash of the social that reduces almost everything else around it, as far as the code is concerned, to noise. Now, what would it mean to create a more robust telecommunications channel? Is that possible? And the conversation that we've been having is yes, actually it is. You could say that Bitcoin's value actually comes from the aggregation of attention, like other media. It takes this attention and collects it, and yet it has no theory of production. It doesn't actually think about the power of expressivity in relationship to social production, and therefore, in another way, it also misses the qualities that people share when they relate to one another. So in place of this disintermediation and the logic of that, which creates this trustless fabric that completely represses the social, we're thinking about reintroducing the social, right? Bringing the social back into the economic space in a really strong way. And so as Ben mentioned, the remediation is the way in which we've been thinking about that. If we can actually remediate our relationships by inflecting the price signal in multiple places, then we can actually make the telecommunication system of it much more robust. That means attaching qualities to price rather than making it content indifferent in every locale. And you do this, I think, by redenominating value on this peer-to-peer basis, right? This resurfaces the social. And so if people issue each other mutual credit and tokenize that credit, then you have a local denomination which is much more than just a piece of code. It's actually a social relation and a relationship of trust among peers. This is really an interesting thing, because what it does is it means that people can issue liquidity to one another, And instead of paying a liquidity premium in the form of interest, the way in which it is when you use your credit card or whatever that might be, we actually get the qualities of the interest because it's a social relationship, right? So a social relationship, social interest actually offers liquidity to appear. And this social interest, this social connection, actually is the vehicle for creating a mutual provisioning of liquidity. So the redenomination means the co-creation of tokenized derivative positions, as Ben was explaining so well, on market volatility. It also means that anyone now can author a derivative, right? And this is a huge innovation because it means a democratization of financial tools. If anyone can write a derivative contract effectively, then we break the monopoly of financial authorship that belongs to the hierarchy, to states and banks. We actually open up the authorship of derivative relations to absolutely everyone, which, by the way, we think is why the internet failed, right? I mean, the internet made horizontal communication possible, but it kept the same financial model. Here we're imagining a horizontalization not only of communication and mediation, but a horizontalization of economy. What that means is that you have a democratization of financial tools and a reversal of what you might think of as the financialization of expression, where human expressivity becomes basically factory work. Say whatever you want, you're still making money for shareholders of media companies. So expressive finance as an expressive medium, means that by accessing the protocol layer of money, we can reformat and reprogram what I call money's fourth determination, right? And beyond measure, beyond medium of exchange, and beyond store of value, namely its determination as information. And this fourth determination becomes a space of intervention and design, and that's what we're working on. So thank you very much.
Yeah, thanks, John.